Hey everyone, this is Brian Z. Zisook, co-founder of Audiomack, where I currently serve as the Vice President of Content Operations and Artist Services, also the Editor-in-Chief of music magazine DJ Booth, and it is my pleasure to moderate today's Deal or No Deal panel session here at SelectCon alongside Amy Oraefo, who I will allow her to introduce herself. Amy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Brian. And you did such an awesome job pronouncing my last name. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Amy, give our viewers here a little background on you so that they feel confident that all the information you articulate here today is not only trustworthy, but believable.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Brian. Hello. My name is Amy Oraefo. I'm originally from Raleigh, North Carolina. However, I reside in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm an entertainment attorney. I work with independent artists, musicians, music producers, content creators, helping them to negotiate their various agreements, from publishing agreements, recording agreements, licensing agreements, and runs the gamut, intellectual property, all things that help with brand protection and the growth of my client's brand.
The truth is that Amy could have spent all 30 minutes today talking about everything that she does because it's a lot, but we'll get into some questions here. So Amy, the title of the panel is Deal or No Deal. So let's just strike at the heart of the title to begin.
Absolutely.
If I'm an artist, when is the proper time, and I know this is a broad question, to even consider, whether a deal makes sense for me?
Excellent question, Brian. So I get this question quite a bit. People are on their journey. They're an independent artist. They have played all the roles. They've been the artist, the creative. They've been their own manager, potentially their own lawyer. We'll get into that, I'm sure. So now they're like, okay, I'm getting some buzz, right? I have some followers. Not only followers, I have people that are actually going to my SoundCloud page. They're going to Apple Music to download my music. They're going to these platforms. Oh, I'm approached by a company, a label. What do I do? Or when do I need an entertainment attorney? Excellent question. The truth is, I tell people, you will know. It will become very obvious because you will have a lot of people, reaching out, approaching, because it's a movement you have created, because you've invested in yourself and time and putting content out. So I always tell artists, your job is to put content out, like to make sure it is out there. Once it's out there, then people will find you. So once that's there, then usually that's where someone is saying, okay, look, I have a couple of people with propositions, deals, or wanting to enter a licensing agreement with me. What does that look like? I'm in that stage. I need someone to help me negotiate.
So, as Amy alluded, there's no one time that every artist universally will be ready. It varies depending on where the artist is at in their career, what they've accomplished up to that point. So, Amy, let's say an artist does believe, based on your explanation a second ago, that they are at the point in their career where a record deal is imminent or they should be pursuing one at all costs. What are a few things that they should be doing independent of that offer being provided to them to put them in the best possible position?
Like we mentioned before, Brian, it's putting the music out. You are a music creator, a content creator. Put music out. Continue to hone and work on your craft, right? So I know that sounds like, do we really? Yeah, that's the first place you start, because you want to build that buzz, that leverage. So putting good music out that makes more people follow you, they'll be interested in your sound. So honing your craft. Once you do that, then the opportunities and deals will come. So let's say, you have a couple of labels who, let's call it like we see it these days, Brian. They're either sliding in someone's DM or they are shooting an email, because we're in a social media, like it's all about technology, especially with the pandemic here right now more than ever. Like that's how we're connecting, interfacing on these various calls and on social media. So they are sliding through. You're like, oh, you put out this music, and what do you know? The very thing you worked hard for, now people are actually reaching out to you. So what does that look like? They're going to come to you, Ideally, some of these terms it'll sound good to you. Maybe a contract is offered to you, and now you are there in that capacity. And maybe some of the the largest amount of money that some people have received at that point, so what do you do? So I often tell people, now that is not the time to do it alone. That is not the time to do it alone. You seek counsel so they can go through these terms with you, meaning terms. And I know we'll dig into this, Brian, as far as you're going to get a contract, right? This is a legitimate business deal. So there's going to be a contract in front of you. What does that look like? There are various, the entire contract's important, but there are key terms that you always want to pay attention to in a contract, because you want to use your leverage and the movement that you've created and built to get the most out of that deal that works for you. And no two deals are the same for anyone.
So you said the word twice, so we have to hone in on it. Leverage. Everybody talks about it. Every artist who signed a deal discusses whether or not they had enough of it at the time of signing, or what they could or should have done to get more of it before signing. So let's talk about what leverage actually looks like. What should an artist accomplish to build up enough leverage so that they can use it when they're at the negotiating table with any label?
Yes. So leverage, that word, like we've been tossing around. So that means, I'll just use in most frank terms, buzz, right? So everyone knows what a buzz means. Like, it means one day people may or may not care about content you're putting out, and the next day they do. How does that look? What may happen? You put a song out, it may be the sound or the genre of your music. It's timing. People go into a studio and everyone believes in themselves, you're going to make the next hit. But like, no one can really define, like, this is going to be a hit that sells 10 million singles or out. No one, no matter how much they tell you, can tell you that we knew this was going to be a life-changing record. They may know the record is special. Right. They may know the project is special, but they don't know the numbers. So that happens. So once that buzz happens, then all of a sudden you wake up the next day, and what people call an overnight success, which those of us in the industry always laugh about because it's not overnight. It's taken so many years. It's all of a sudden you wake up to 100,000 new followers, right? That's what we're talking about, leverage. And then guess what? You put out a video that you have created yourself on a, independent budget. As an independent artist, you put together I'm not going to say a select amount, because some people may be a $5,000 video. Some people may have 2,000. Some people may have 10,000. But guess what? You put that out and 200,000 people are following you. So you're starting to notice a pattern, like, people like what I'm doing. So you keep doing it, and you keep getting impressions, and you keep getting eyeballs, and you keep getting people to purchase what you're doing. Then these opportunities start coming. So that's what leverage looks like. So by the time a record label or deal or any third party comes to you, you get to tell them, prior to you all coming, this had occurred. These opportunities had come. So that's leverage. You're showing that, thank you for what you're offering me, but prior to you coming, I still had, some steam in the engine. We were, the train was going, is moving. Now what can you all do to help further accelerate this movement that's going?
Great explanation, Amy. And I should point out that not all of these items are equal. So a record label is going to look at something like hard ticket sales, your ability to sell out a venue, your ability to move merchandise, your ability to stream, as more valuable necessarily than, let's say, a large following on any one singular platform. It's all important, but anything that can produce more money is going to excite either a label or a distributor more. So we obviously just define what leverage means. Let's also define a few other words so that as they come up during today's conversation, our viewers understand fully what we're talking about. So we defined leverage. Before we continue, Amy, I think it would be best, let's go ahead and define a few more words that I anticipate you and I will be discussing throughout the conversation. This so that all of our viewers have a firm understanding of exactly what we're talking about. So leverage, that's checked. What about an advance? How do we define what an advance is?
Yes, an advance is an upfront loan from the third party, whether that's an independent record label, distributor, or whoever the third party is, saying that we believe in you. And by showing we believe in you, we're going to invest some money in you. So let's give an example. Clean numbers, $100,000 for a 3-album deal. So we want to give you $100,000 up front that will hopefully change, your current life situation or existence, so that will help you, because as an artist at that point, they're saying, we want you to commit your time to be a full-time artist. So let's give this money up front, and then this money's here. But however, before you collect on the back end royalties, let's say the split is an 80-20 split, in your favor 80 for you, 20 for the independent label, or 70-30, whatever the split may be. Before that occurs, we need our $100,000 back. So that's called recoupment. So when that $100,000 is there, the label or the distributor needs to recoup that every single penny before you get your royalties on the back end.
Okay, so we did a twofer. We covered an advance and recoupment in one. Let's talk now about the word term. So that advance is being provided based on a set term. What does that term look like exactly, Amy?
Oh, excellent question, Brian. So that term could vary. It really, really depends. I will say, oftentimes when you see the trade-off, as you can imagine, the more money, the longer the term. So what does the term mean? The length of the contract. Is that where it used to be? It's cleaner when someone says from one calendar year to the next. So from January 1st to December 31st. But in most cases, when we're talking in music deals, it's changed so much because not as many albums that go out as, singles or downloads in this case. But let's just use, for ease of example, albums. If it's an album deal, then the term will go according to the release of an album. So someone may say, just going back on our example for $100,000, we want 3 albums. So that is what they refer to as a 3-album deal, right? So the term will be according to albums. So if you don't release an album every 2 years, that basically is a 6-year contract. But they're referring to it as a 3-album term. So your term could be actual time in a calendar year. That ideally is more of what you want. Or it could be based on the number of projects you release, which, as you can imagine, life happens, or things could be held up in labels. And then your album doesn't mean it has to come out every year. Some people take a break. So if they don't release an album, they're still in that contract, and the clock is still ticking. So term could be contingent upon length of time, or it could be on projects that you actually need to deliver.
Amy, another term, no pun intended, that is often thrown around as it relates to recoupment is cross-collateralization. And so it's a sort of a sexy word, but like, what does it mean? So let's talk about that.
Yes, cross-collateralization means that the label, again, like Brian and I are discussing, labels, third parties, distributors, in whatever form of the contract, it's great. They believe in you, but it's business. We say it's called the music business because people want to recoup on their investment. So I said that because it's very, very important. Cross-collateralization gives them more opportunities to collect on the money that they put up front. So that means that if in ease, let's just use the example of a 360 deal. We've heard of that. So let's define that while I'm actually defining cross-collateralization. A 360
Right.
deal where music labels used to go in and just, I don't know, collect on just music. Then now things have changed with, albums and songs aren't, not that they're not selling, they're just selling in a different way. Things turn into the digital format has changed a lot. People used to go out and buy actual, I'm taking everyone way back, right? 12-inch vinyls, cassette tapes, CDs, right? Physically will go out, and that's changed, we all know. So now that is there, then they're saying, okay, wait a second. We're not selling units, which they were referred to music sales as before, units as much as we used to. So how are we going to collect our money the way we used to in our heyday when they were basically printing checks and money? So that was the birth of the 360 deal. That says, okay, we're not getting it all in music, but by taking a chance on you and give you 100,000, we want a piece of your merchandise. We want a piece of your touring. We want a piece of your publishing. We want a piece of your appearances. I mean, this list could be lengthy, like as far as what is expected in a 360 deal. That's why having carve outs. Brian, I noticed I'm defining things and throwing in new definitions. But it's important to say about the carve out. Yes, with the carve outs having, because of course the label is going to want to collect on, as they call it, the kitchen sink. And then that's why having your counsel in there to carve certain things out to say, no, 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 prior to you all coming in, I had a successful acting career, or I was an author already. You cannot touch that. Those are what carve outs are saying. That you, okay, maybe we'll negotiate on compromising and letting you collect on some merchandise if you're helping me in the expenses for marketing, but you cannot touch my acting career because this was thriving way before I became a musician. Those are examples of carve outs. So that's what cross collateralization saying. The label saying, I'll take it from here, I'll take it from here, I'll take it from here, until they recoup and collect their money.
Okay, so obviously these are all related terms because the more leverage you have when you step up to the negotiating table, the greater the likelihood you will be able to negotiate a term that fits you based on the type of music that you make. You could be a singles artist. You might not want to release multiple albums. You could be an albums artist. You're going to want to find out what your marketing budget looks like. These are all things that are negotiable. Now, the only way that you can properly negotiate them, though, is by having someone who is expertly trained on contract law in your field, Amy. So we're going to ask a few, to some might seem like obvious questions, but they need to be asked and answered so that people hear them and hopefully understand them. So first question I get all the time is, all right, but is it necessary that I actually have a lawyer? Amy, go.
Yes, yes, yes. And of course, this sounds self-serving because I'm a lawyer, and I would say, of course, you need a lawyer. But with all honesty, you all, these contracts can get a bit dense, and I'll call them dense because it is a lot that will be covered. We're talking, look what Brian and I have talked about already, right? We talked about terms like the actual term, how that's defined. We've talked about money, incredibly important for you, how you're going to be compensated. You want to know the services that are being required of you. You want to know, are you in that contract? Is your publishing being requested, right? Which is usually a totally separate agreement. Signing a recording agreement is not all inclusive of signing a publishing deal. Very separate deals. But if somebody's not careful and you do not have entertainment counsel, music counsel specifically, then you may sign your publishing rights away. You may sign it away for a very long period of time, or you may sign it away for a short period of time because you saw publishing language in there and didn't quite know what it was, and you signed it. So it includes incredibly detailed terms. Merchandise that we mentioned, because some of these contracts will have the 360 component in there. It will have something outside of music there. They want to collect your publishing, your merch, touring, like I said, acting, appearances, book, authorship. You all, this sounds extensive because that's what's listed in there sometimes. So you want someone who has seen this before and has negotiated it to do it. You know, they have experience. They know, you know, if you have to go in there and find some of that language that may be tricky, and then someone who's not talking over your head as counsel. They will explain to you what these terms mean. So yes, it is imperative to have counsels. It is a great investment in you because I often tell people you want to be proactive versus reactive. You want to be proactive and negotiate this contract and spend money with the lawyer versus being reactive and having to file a lawsuit because you have to clean up a mess and then still get to the right place later.
Okay, so obviously you want a lawyer to be at that table. And the question I always get is, all right, well, I understand, but it's going to cost me a lot of money to get an entertainment lawyer, and I can barely pay rent. So how do you expect me to come up with the capital necessary to get that representation? And to that, Amy, you would say what?
I would say that that's why it's incredibly important to build a relationship with your own personal attorney, because there are different fee arrangements and structures. For example, what Brian is alluding to, and what we all know in the industry is a standard, is that an attorney could take a deal, percentage of a deal. So generally the standard will be that an entertainment attorney is going to take 5% of a deal. So they don't get paid until you get paid. So obviously that incentivizes all parties involved to close this deal, but do it always with integrity, right? And making sure that, you know, you're advocating for your client, but you do not get paid until your client collects on whatever that gross payment is, whether it comes in the form of advance, some lump sum payment, whatever the case may be. dependent on the contract. Then your lawyer will take it on the back end. Once you get paid, your lawyer gets paid. So there are arrangements such as that. And then sometimes there'll be things that may have the hourly rate. But even then, talking and building with your lawyer, we know a lot of times you all in entertainment, we have to build with you all and grow with you all as well, right? So it's believing and betting in that person to say, okay, I have to file this trademark, and no, I can't take it on the back end because there are fees, but maybe I could reduce this fee, because people remember that as they're building the team, and you grow and it builds longevity. So the key is talk to your counsel. Don't rule it out saying, oh, I can't afford this attorney, because someone may see something special in you and say, let's go on this ride together. And the fees may be reduced, or they'll figure out a different way, to collect, like we said, the back end on a deal. And then you go on this ride together and everybody's incredibly happy.
But Amy, I talked to the record label and they said, oh, no, don't worry. We'll provide you with our attorney. To that, what would you say?
Oh, no. That's what you say. You would say, absolutely not. That's what I would say. I gave you a real reaction of what I would say to myself, like, oh, no, are they doing that? No, you all do not fall for the okie doke. That is an inherent conflict of interest. The person cannot represent both the label and you as an artist signing to the label, because their interest will be skewed, meaning to the label, right? So you want to seek what they call independent counsel, exclusive of the label. Someone who does not work for the label, receive a check or payment, or is incentivized, obviously, by working, receiving some compensation. So absolutely not. Seek your own counsel. That's why it's important to build relationships with entertainment attorneys in general, so that by the time a deal is there, you've been able to vet various people to say, okay, I like this person. He or she will come into this deal. And you already have a rapport with the individual.
Often artists are presented with deals that obviously skew in the favor of the label or the distributor. They want to make money, and it requires an entertainment attorney like yourself to sit down with the artist and come up with some realistic goals for the outcome. Artists often will say, well, I can't pass up this opportunity. I don't think that it'll ever come again. And most artists at that point in their career, they don't have much money to their name. They might not even have a bank account set up. And the fear is, if I say no to this deal, if I turn away from this opportunity, I might never get one ever again, which is a valid concern. So what would you say to an artist who is willing to take a deal that his or her entertainment lawyer tells them is not a great deal because they're worried that another might not come?
Oh, well, this touches my heart so much, Brian, because it happens more frequently than people know, because you're talking to an artist who has so much potential, and it's difficult to tell them, hold out. I'm telling you, I've seen this before play out in someone else's life. Just wait. Your first deal does not have to be the deal you jump on. But however, they may be offered $100,000 or $200,000, and they're like, "Oh, are you going to give that to me?" So it's a very valid question. So you're telling them, like, because you have seen it play out, but they need that money. They're real concerns. This individual may have a family to support. There may be an emergency that happens health-wise, whatever the case may be. We know with COVID-19, life happens. So what happens? A lot of it is, that's why it's key to have a pure, transparent relationship with your team, your counsel, your attorney, your manager, everyone, because these people, you have to trust that you're in your corner. And it's just having that conversation to say, you are so close. If this person is offering you this amount of money, let's continue to build, because if they're offering you that, maybe two more will offer you the next. And it may or may not be the case, but just you have to teach them to value their brand and themselves, and knowing that if one person's interested, there's a high probability a lot of other people be interested. And sometimes that deal could look like double or even quadruple the amount that was offered.
We could all exercise more patience. It's easy, obviously, for us to say. It's another thing for artists to be in that position, but that's great advice, Amy. So obviously, the signing to a major label has always been the more attractive and sexy route. The belief is that the major label system has the muscle and the financial backing to elevate you into a superstar. But there is a market right now that is ripe for the taking, which is the middle class artist. So you're no longer struggling. You might not be a superstar selling out arenas and tours and have number one records at radio, but you can have a financially stable career where music is your only occupation. And so there are a lot of different deal structures that are available to artists. There are profit split deals, 50-50. There are licensing deals. There are simple distribution deals with label services where a distributor just simply provides marketing and publicity and radio support. For an artist in the infancy stages of their career, Amy, based on all the different contracts you've negotiated over the years, here in 2020, what do you think is the best avenue, or is there a best avenue?
Oh gosh, it is such a dynamic question, Brian, because like you said, it's no two scenarios fit the same for each individual. So you mentioned all great platforms and licensing agreements, distribution deal. So it can look like this for one, for client A can come in and say, I was offered, oh, let's actually flip it. So let's say it's a licensing deal where someone says, no upfront money, right? But we come in with a clean split, meaning the day one, for me, asking to get use of your song for 1 year to use it, I would like $100,000. Okay, great. But what does that look like? I jump in to say, the easiest way to explain what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get my clients the most amount of money for the least amount of commitment. I say that to all my clients. I'm trying to get you as close as possible to that goal. We're going to make some compromises. So we start with $100,000. Of course, what is the licensing company, the licensor wants? They want $100,000 perpetual use all throughout the world. And perpetual means forever and ever and ever. And then they want it throughout the world. I'm going to come in to say, we want to give you 100,000. You can use it in the United States and you can use it for 2 years. Right. And then what are we doing there? Right. So I'm coming in knowing that they're going to push back hard, but that is my job, because guess what I want to do? I don't want you in a deal forever. I want you to re-up 2 years later. And guess what? Because they've seen the success they've had under you, our number is going to be 250K for 1 year. Right? You see where I'm going with that? Right? So we're doing that. But then they're going to be like, well, you know what? We sold well with him. We sold well with her. Let's try it. Because again, we keep mentioning, people want a return on their investment in business. Right? It's a formula. If I make money with this person, like Brian said at the top of this time, if I make money with you, I want to keep making money with you if it works well. Right? So that's what it looks like, whether that's a licensing deal, whether that's a distribution agreement, and all that is powerful as an independent artist, because your goal should always be, if you can, I know scenarios are different, own all of your copyright or as much of your copyright as possible. But the key is always to own your copyright, which is if you write the lyrics to a song as a songwriter, if you produce the beat as a beat maker, you're a songwriter and you're a copyright owner to the song. You want to own that, because that's what's referred to when you bottle up the song in its final form, how we hear on radio and Apple, Spotify. When you hear it there, that is called your sound recording. Your key is to own that. That's what's called your masters. If you own that, then you could say, this person can use it, this person cannot use it. I can have 10 license agreements with these people when they're non-exclusive. That is, non-exclusive means that's open up for the world as many people want to use it. If somebody wants an exclusive license with you, say you own your copyright, but can I have this for a year and nobody else can use it? The more exclusivity someone wants, the higher the price. So you may say, just to throw it out, if I'm boxing everybody out and I have a lot of takers, I need $1 million for a year. That's how it looks to you all.
Give me that deal. So, Amy, we're gonna wrap up here with one final question, and that is based on the title of today's panel session. So, if you could give one piece of advice to an artist who's debating whether to take a deal or not take a deal and remain fully independent, what would that piece of advice be?
Bet on yourself. I said it before and I'll continue to say it and I'll say it again. Bet on yourself. What does that mean? Start from the ground up by yourself as an indie artist, as an independent artist. Because guess what that teaches you? And it trains you and it creates discipline. Whether you are an independent artist or eventually one day you go to the major deal, whatever your case is, you will know how to operate as an entrepreneur, operate as a business person. You all, that's key. And it's key, regardless of where you are as an independent artist or signed to a major. So if you have that power and you're creating your own buzz and you can monetize that, a major label may not make sense for you. You have your own machine, as we well see. They're incredibly successful artists. One of the most successful we're seeing at this time. Let's use Chance the Rapper, for example. Like, I'm just saying that's someone who has purely been indie for his journey. And I believe, I may be wrong with the number of Grammys he collected the other year, but was it 3 or 4? So we're seeing it look very different. We're seeing more independent artists, but if you can create your own, all these words we use, leverage, buzz, movement, then a major label may not make sense to you. So you all bet in yourself, learn how to market yourself, learn how to put your content out, build the best team around you of a business manager, a personal manager, a lawyer, and then you evolve to other things as far as whether you need a publicist, but get to step 1 before you jump to step 5, right? I tell people a lot of times, they're like, I have 5 people on my team, but you need to push and move something. So just bet on yourself, invest in yourself, and build your brand.
Well, Amy, you and I, we both know that we could go another hour and a half here, but unfortunately, our time is up. Amy Oraefo, thank you so much for joining me. As the internet likes to say, you dropped many gems. Hopefully, I did too. And thank you all again for joining us here, SelectCon 2020. I'm Brian Zisook. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your year. Take care.
Take care.